Here we go. So again, my name is Kerry-Ann Joseph-McLean. I am a health enthusiast. I am not a practitioner. I don't claim to have all the answers. This is not my field, but for me, I've become, increasingly passionate about health. All of us, we have a stage of our growth, stage of life. I call these character building moments. That's my phrase. I just decided to just capture that over the years. But we all have challenges. We have challenges in health, we have challenges in finances, we have challenges in family, we have stress, and some are more chronic and some are like, everyday stress. But we want to be able to download and to be able to get the information we need. And, in this stage of life, on this era of life, we have a lot of information out there, and some are truth and some are not truth, and some are hyped and some are not hyped. So what I'm sharing with you now is the information that I've gathered, and I'll share with you some stories that have impacted me and my family. And you take the information away as you see fit. And I would encourage you to take a screen capture of what you're seeing. Of course, there'll be a time for Q&A at the end. But again, I'm going to reintroduce, a dear and special friend of mine. Her name is Patricia Russell. She is an awesome person. I'll introduce you, who she is and what she's about before she comes on. But she actually is a two-time cancer survivor. So I think for me, it's just to be able to learn and to grow and to be able to help each other. And please feel free that this is a safe environment that you can share, your questions, and hopefully we can address them. If we don't know, we will seek the answers for you. Okay. And again, I'm not a practitioner. I'm just a health enthusiast. So I'm going to share this with you, and I'm going to share my slide. And if you want to interact in the chat, you can sort of do that, ask your questions there, and towards the end, I can review it, and then we can sort of go through them one by one if you're feeling kind of shy to express yourself verbally on the call. There we go. I'm not as tech savvy as you might think I am, but I'm not. I'm just sharing this. This is just a fact, okay? I'm learning and going in the process of sharing. But I'm getting there. Awesome. So as I mentioned to you before, our topic today is basically speaking on cancer. I know there's so many different types of cancers out there that, we can't cover everything, single thing today, but along our weekly sessions that we have, we are actually going to touch on different topics. If there's a specific topic that you would like us to share on in future events or future sessions, we'd be more than happy to do a presentation and cover that for you as long as we're able to. So today's topic again is on, improving and learning about certain conditions and symptoms of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and ascites. If I pronounce it incorrectly, I apologize. And the ways to improve your health journey and along you going through this, or if you know someone who's gone through it. And the reason why this is especially passionate for me, my cousin, which is more like my sister, was diagnosed about 5 years ago with breast cancer. And so I'll share her story throughout at the end. But, for me going through that with her, in a sense of just seeing her, how brave she was, and it is a journey. And so her going through the surgery and then the radiation and then aftercare, and still that 5-year journey had some challenges as well. So thank God she's cancer-free today. But there's certain things that we sort of did our homework and we were able to say, okay, these are the things that can help you to stay at your optimal best, the best that you know, because our body doesn't lie, it tells us exactly how we feel. And also in my mother's case, she recently passed out 2 years ago, and she had a diabetic related stroke, which left her immobile. She couldn't move, she was bedridden. So I sort of took care of her for those 2 years before she passed. But what surprised me is, and this is not about breast cancer, this is about the cancer she had. She would develop pancreatic cancer with no symptoms. And she passed away within 3 months of being diagnosed, simply from a nosebleed and jaundice. So I'm sharing this with you because that happened to my mom. There were some concerns about myself because there's usually like a trace factor in families. So I want to invite you to learn, listen, be open, take pictures, ask questions, and just be open to receiving the information. What is for you or not, you will determine because it will resonate with you or not. So we know that cancer, there's a little bit of information. Many of us know this, but I actually was doing my research and I was surprised at some of the things that I learned. So cancer, causes of breast cancer can actually happen in different factors. One is personal history of the disease. One is, and it's sometimes due to your menstruation and menopause, it can happen, especially if women experience menstruation before the age of 11. And in that case, my sister, my younger sister, had her menstrual cycle starting at age 9, and she's going through menopause much earlier, 38. No, she doesn't have cancer. There's no trace of it, but there was some tests done to ensure. And at one point, she did have some traits in her ovaries, but that actually in her 20s, but that actually is fine now. And then also late stage, late pregnancy, that can also be a factor because there's a heightened increase in your hormones and estrogen. So therefore, there are other factors that can cause you to have, in some cases, symptoms or causes of breast cancer. Improper lifestyle, that can also be a factor as well. So there are many things that can cause it, alcohol, no activity, unhealthy habits, and we all fall guilty of that. And the other thing as well is, in some cases, you may have where some people are, highly stressed. Stress induces can also induce some type of diseases. So there's different things that we have to also think of as we are. And there's another person named Sachin Patel. He is a functional medicine practitioner, but he actually teaches doctors on this. And his mindset on that is that it's a body. It doesn't lie. It tells you exactly how it feels. It feels. It's presenting to you symptoms. We are all the future. We are the doctors that we can actually determine our body and that we can more articulate ourselves and how we're feeling to the actual practitioner so that we are more knowledgeable on how our body is performing or lack thereof. So some of the symptoms of early breast cancer, you can have a lump in the breast or the armpit. In that case, that was my cousin, and she kept feeling a pulling in her breast, and then under her arm was extra tender. So there were some symptoms there, and it was so small. It would come ever so often, so she would be concerned, but then put it off. But then thankfully it was discovered. Inverted nipples can be one of it with discharge, and the change in the breast shape of the size. I do have someone I know who has PCOS breast, and so that also is something that her family is concerned about. Now she doesn't have cancer, but that's actually something that they look for. Dimpling of the breast, skin texture change. In my cousin's case, it didn't change until after she started doing radiation. Then it got darker where they were doing the radiation. Breast pain, in her case, it wasn't induced pain, like a lot of pain, but it was like a pulling sensation. And then at time, like a lancing, if there's a better word of description for that. And then redness and swelling of the breast. So there's different signs you can have, and sometimes you may even have these symptoms because, these happen when you're at a maybe second or third stage, depending on, the growth of that cancer cell or cancer cells. So one of the things that I'm an advocate for is to make sure that you be more proactive with yourself. At my 20s, my doctor said, well, have you checked? How often do you check? And so he will show you at the time, he's now since passed, how to check your breast. I'm sure your doctor can advise you. And if you don't have a family doctor, maybe try to get to, a clinic where you can actually get, or someone who's accepting new patients, so be able to have that annual check. Depending on your stage in life, it could be once a year or every 2 years. Sometimes as you get older, it's more frequent. And if you have a higher risk, then they'll ask you to have more than one check, let's say ultrasound, or you have your mammogram. Another thing as well that you want to also look at is, chemotherapy, radiation have their purposes. When you have this threat to your body, to your life, you do your due diligence, you do your homework, you ask a lot of questions. And one doctor may not have all the answers. For example, in my cousin's case, I went with her to all of her appointments before the surgery, after the surgery. And in that case, the one question I asked her to ask him was, what can she eat? And he turned to us and said, anything, you can eat anything. Now we know that certain foods can actually, have a negative effect on your recovery, or if you have had cancer or you're in a risk of getting cancer in your lifetime. But for me, he's not a nutritionist. So I would suggest to you to speak to a nutritionist or a naturopath who can actually help you as you go along your journey, in addition to the necessary treatment that's required. And, there's different types of treatments for different types of cancer and stages of cancer. So again, do your due diligence. So some of the early stages now of ovarian cancer, so we're talking about this, and I put this little pink picture here because this is for breast cancer, but for me, it symbolizes more than just breast cancer. So the early stage of symptoms for ovarian cancer is frequent urination. Now, it's a tricky thing. Frequent urination can be anything. It could be, you could have a urinary tract infection. You could have, as you get older and you cough and you sneeze, sometimes that can happen where you have your pelvis wall. Everything can happen. It gets weaker over time, especially after childbirth. And so frequent urination can also be linked to diabetes, where your kidneys not functioning properly. So again, just pay attention to that. Your bloating of your stomach, it happens when you have your menstrual cycle, where you get really bloated in some cases. And in some cases when, you're not eating the right foods, it can impact you, but pay attention to that, to how frequent you're getting that type of bloating. Feeling very full very quickly can happen. That can actually be one of the symptoms. Pelvic pain. Now, there's also something called pelvic inflammation, which is not linked to ovarian cancer, but pay attention to what's happening in your body, especially when you have your menstrual cycle, as to the level of pain you're having. Another one could be as well changes your bowel habits, and then your fluid collection. Another one is pain during intercourse. So depending on your frequency of intimacy, you can actually know more that you're experiencing abnormal pain. So pay attention to that as well. And then back pain. That's something that actually, doing my research with my cousin when she was diagnosed with that, she had some back pain, but it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with an issue she had from fibroids. And, there's similar symptoms for different um, health scares or health conditions, but you would pay attention to see if there's a link. And then, of course, when you're speaking to your doctor or your practitioner, you express as much as you can with what you're feeling, and don't be shy about it. Don't keep anything from your doctor. Sometimes it might be a little bit embarrassing to say, well, I'm having pain during intercourse to a male doctor. But then you must say those things so that they can know exactly how to pinpoint. So the more information you give them, the better that they can help you to recover and to be able to start your health journey or healthier road to your recovery. Another one is assistis in ovarian cancer. This is actually something that surprised me as well. One of the things that I've realized is that everything is connected in the body. Sometimes you have a knee pain, but really it's not the knee. It could be the hip or the back. You may have an issue with your sinus, but really it's not, a cold you get. It could be something else. It could be where you have a nosebleed. It could be something else. It could be different things, but pay attention. Now, this is actually linked to ovarian cancer, but it's also not just predominant in this type of condition in women. It's also in men. Although they don't have ovaries, there's other symptoms, ways that they actually have this condition. So the extra fluids around the lungs, the liver, the ovaries, and so you have an area to this diagram you're seeing where that's the area that's impacting, and it can cause different things like nausea, upset stomach, unusual fullness. So I mentioned about ovarian cancer, how you have sometimes a feeling of fullness. This can be another risk factor as well. So back pain, constipation, so all can be linked to that. And so men can also have this, but overall, male or female, these are some of the additional risk factors that you may not have thought about. If you know someone who has symptoms like that, and don't sort of like say, well, you have this, but encourage them to go see a doctor. So one of the things too as well is practicing unsafe sex, being unvaccinated for hepatitis B. That's one of the things that that is shared as with this type of condition, that is a risk of you having this type of symptoms or condition. And another one that surprised me as well was the liver damage. We know the liver can repair itself, regenerate itself, but if it's not being given the right things, not being treated correctly, it's basically it's a reverse effect. Another one is pancreatitis. And I mentioned to you that my mom passed from pancreatic cancer. And so because she was not mobile and she couldn't move, the surgery that that's normally given to like a stent, she couldn't get it because it would be more painful. And so the pancreatic cancer happened, and again, doing my due diligence, after she was told is that someone who's diabetic has a higher risk of getting pancreatic cancer in some state in their life. It's not monitored, and that even though you're taking your parents or your loved ones to their appointments and follow-ups, all of that, that's something that was out of my mind. So it's not something I would ask for, because I like to be proactive, and I'm sure you do too. You being here is telling that you want to be proactive with your health of those around you. So practicing, certain things to help you to live a healthier version of you is mindfulness, being mindful of your body, of your mood, your mindset. Everything is connected, right? Kidney disease is also one of the things that can cause this. Liver condition like psoriasis, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, your immune system. You'd be surprised at how everything is connected. One triggers something else. And so in my research, I've found that you can go on and on with research, but you make sure you find credible information that can help you along your journey. So how do you treat this? You can ask your doctor for recommendation on how to manage that, and they will give you information on that. But here's just a few of the things I won't go through, step by step, but take a screen capture of this. But what I want to share with you is the other part of wellness. And this, for me, has become a passion for myself and my husband. So one of the things we have to be mindful of is, it's very easy to gravitate to sugary things, especially when we're highly stressed. It's very easy not to be active because we have low energy. It's very easy to forget that we have to take the right supplements because we don't have a current health care. And then when we do have, we then become reactive, not proactive. And so being reactive is not something that I would encourage. And trust me, in my life journey, I've fallen a victim to that myself, where I've sort of put it off and then realized, okay, part of my self-care is making sure that I'm eating right. And so for you, you may have had a resolution from January, so telling yourself, I want to lose weight or I want to be healthier. But what does that mean? Right? Especially if you think, okay, there's no risk factor for me. Maybe I might know someone I can suggest it, but you've been proactive in certain things. Of course, you treat yourself once in a while to some chocolate here and there, the good kind, or like myself, my middle name is Chocolate, because I love chocolate so much, but I have to be mindful, right? So in this case, eating the right food, preparing your meals in advance, sort of like a cheat sheet of what the things that you can actually easily make. And if I would mention my mom again, when she had her second stroke, because of time factor, I couldn't be in the kitchen all the time because it was sort of like 24-hour care. And so in the 24-hour care, so to speak, I had to think of how to prepare meals on a Sunday. So I would, cook season everything and parcel it out, and I would do the chicken and the fish and the sweet potatoes and all the vegetables, and I would put them in a container that has 3 different sections with the right foods, because I work with a dietitian, and I would label it for 2 weeks at a time. So that's something you can actually do to be able to show that you're taking the right things. So here are some of the things I know. There's a gentleman called Gary Brecka. He's called the human biologist. And I sort of tapped into him. I went to an event in Las Vegas in December. I knew about him, but really didn't know about him. And then my husband was actually following him for like a year. But then when I tapped into his information on YouTube, you can check it out yourself. He spoke about the body needing the right nutrients. Many of the illnesses we have is because we're deficient in the right nutrients, amino acids, all the things that our body need to be able to heal itself. We're not giving it because most of the food sources are depleted. So we can eat a amount of broccoli and vegetables and fruit, all of this, great. They taste great, you prepare them right. But there's certain things that I've learned, especially when I do my fasting time, when I do fast, there's certain things that you can't reintroduce right away. So there's certain types of seasonings that have a little bit of sugar that you don't really realize. Read your labels. There's certain things that have iodized salt that are not good for you. So we think we're eating well, but then there's certain things you add to your food that sort of like has the reverse, it's counterproductive. So your body needs a lot of antioxidants. And so here's some of the things that we would recommend. And this is just not for assistis or ascites, sorry, tongue twister there for me. But some of the things you actually can be mindful of is like some of the foods that we would say for someone who's either had a health scare with cancer or is going through that journey or post, and also just a general well-being. And so you can share this with others, and have like a sort of like share the knowledge with your friends and family and encourage each other to be able to eat the right way. You can even do challenges with your family and friends to say, we're going to do a campaign of eating healthier, share recipes, do things. I have a dear friend, her name is Deborah, and she actually has created these delicious recipes, and I'm going to ask her to share some, not tonight, but I'm sort of encouraged because I like baking and cooking, but she's like next level for me. But the way how she prepares her meal is for herself to be able to live a better version of herself in her health journey, right? So if you've taken a screen capture, great. So here's the meat and potatoes of what I want to share with you. Now, what you see to your left, is just like an example of what type of the percentage of the goodness that you can receive from different things like, oranges and broccolis and, drinking your milk or your fish and all of these things. Great. The source, you have to do your due diligence to see where these things are grown from. But the middle of this picture, there's something that you're seeing here that looks like a little fan. It's called Ganoderma lucidum. Now, 12 years ago, I never heard about this. I didn't know about this, but I accidentally started consuming it through a beverage and noticed some health benefits. And so for me, along my journey, consuming this and introducing it into my system, into my family, for me, hindsight is 2020. In my case, if I knew my mom would have had this, no one really knows when illness will come if we're not paying attention to the signs. Symptoms of a nosebleed and jaundice does not equal cancer to me. Pain in the body, there was none. There was no physical pain for her. Every day I was with her from the time she got up to the time she went to bed. All right. So for me, it's like, okay, for me, it's like a regret, a bitter pill. But I know that I can continue to add value by sharing this information with you. So to your right, and anything you see here actually is backed by science and research. Again, I'm not a practitioner. I'm not a scientist. I am not a researcher, but what I love is to find information that's credible. So you can actually find this through pubmed.gov, but it's a public medical library. And you can actually get it's over 3,000 studies. And you can spend weeks and months and years just going through that to find information on different health conditions and the findings and the results. So what I'm sharing with you now is some of the things that I've actually been able to gather. And one of the things that with Ganoderma is anti-cancer. It actually helps with several types of cancer, including breast cancer. There's also another wonderful mushroom which is called cordyceps. So cordyceps and Ganoderma, that PubMed you see at the top, that's where I got that finding. There's two other PubMeds, and so one of the things it has been known for is suppressing the suppressive action on breast cancer, and also is considered anti-cancer. And so there's many types of edible mushrooms on the market. Make sure you're getting the right kind, the right source, but ensure that you're giving your body the right things by including superfoods into your body, into your diet. Now we eat hopefully the right things. We consume hopefully the right things. But what you can do to sort of give your health journey, your meal plan is a boost of goodness by including superfoods. We know, blueberries are superfoods. We know that, there's that of spirulina, which is also anti-cancer, is also a superfood. So do your due diligence in the way of what you normally can consume and then add to it. Subtract what is not good for you as best as you can, because habits sometimes are hard to break. But then lessen the amount of bad things that you're consuming that's not helping you, and include things that will help to ward off the diseases that we know that can come to your body, especially as we move from season to season in our life. So another one here is through a few PubMed studies as well. One is for inflammation. Now, what I've learned over time, if the body is highly inflamed, if it is acidic, it gives it that perfect storm to get a disease in your body, which is called dis-ease. When the body is not at ease, it's dis-ease or disease. So there's many things that can be linked as well if you're going through a cancer scare or cancer itself or cancer treatment. And one of the things is depression. One is also in my case, in my cousin's case, when I took her to her 20 rounds of radiation, we had a session with a social worker. And one of the things that surprised me was two questions. Do you have suicidal thoughts? Do you feel like you're depressed? Do you feel any type of anxiety? And so these things happen because you feel isolated. You feel that you're alone. And so in her case, I was hurt with her. So she's like my sister, as I mentioned to you. So anything from my cousin. But these are things that surprised me that they would ask. And another one too, as well, is that some of these conditions can be linked also, like especially cystatic. Again, I apologize for mispronouncing it if I have, can be linked to heart disease. So if you're consuming something like Ganoderma, which is a superfood, it's actually a mushroom that has been known in the Eastern world for thousands and thousands of years. It's actually appeared with people, especially in Japan, they actually approve or recommend you taking Ganoderma along with your medication, because what it does, it protects your organs, it protects your immune system, and also your overall mood and well-being whilst you're going through a particular condition or treatment. And so what we have discovered is that there's no negative interaction with the medication that you're taking. For in the case of my mother, she's diabetic, so she had beta block, she had her metformin, she also had her cholesterol pill, high blood pressure pill, but she had to take because she had a stroke twice in 7 years. And the second one was more worse than the first. But I continued giving her the coffees and teas she liked. And even though it's your loved one, I still actually want to get other things like ginkgo biloba and also turmeric. And then I went to the pharmacist and they said, no, we can't give her those two because it interacts with the beta block. And interacts negatively with the metformin. But I asked about the Ganoderma and they said yes, because they knew what it was, because the pharmacists, they studied natural medicine. So it was a win-win for me, for my mom. Now, again, hindsight is 2020. If I knew that my mom would have passed away from pancreatic cancer, I would give her heavier, more dosage of the capsules. But at that time, she was taking so many capsules, I don't think she would have wanted to take more. But for me, I would have found ways to do that. So another one too is another type of mushroom is called lion's mane, which I'll explain further. And again, you can find all of these in PubMed. So this is what it looks like. It's this hard shell on the outside. So it protects the goodness on the inside from nature, because, there are a lot of crops can get infestation of diseases through, insects and so forth. But this is how nature intended it to be. And so we found a way to extract the patent and create a powder form so you can easily digest it. Because normally in the Eastern world, they create this in a tincture, which is quite bitter to taste on its own. But there's a way you can consume it without having that bitterness. If you're like me, no matter how good it is, bitterness can't pass my palate. So here's some other things here that I wanted to share with you. The actual mushroom is grown in 3 stages. So it's the mycelium, which is the rooting body, the roots, the Ganoderma, as you see here, which is the fruiting body. Then there's some little seeds that actually go into the air and go back onto the plum logs where the mushroom is grown and creates more. So it's like a rebirth, right? Or regeneration. But then there's some, in the market that they have them going in plastic bags, so the spores cannot regenerate. And so it's actually been known to help with chemosensitivity. It also helps with ovarian cancer, many types of cancer, and also known for liver tumors. Now, one of the other things I want to share with you that has been confirmed here in Canada with the Health Canada institution, that we have on our capsules, the bottle itself, an NPN number, which is a natural product number that states that it supports the immune system. So not only does it support the immune system, there's lots of testimonials coming back and back information through PubMed that says it actually does more than that. But according to every country, they will have their own stipulations, of course. But for me, I consume this. I love it because for me, I can tell the difference. But we have a patent that we can actually break the shells of the spores, that we have this for the next few decades, that's where you get the best nutrients, and that's called the spores. So someone who's going through a condition, like my cousin at the time, going through cancer, I just gifted her the spores before she had to have surgery. After surgery, she actually continued the spores to protect her organs. And I actually consulted with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Bob Burkowski, and I shared with him what was happening, and he said, give her 2 every waking hour. And so she consumed that while she was doing her radiation. And so kept asking how she's feeling, and she's observing other people who are there taking their treatment, and they're asking her, how come she has so much energy? Why is she not as drained as the others? And she just, of course, she praises her God, but she knows exactly what she's consuming. And then she shared her story with me as how she's feeling. And so many of the things can be telling, because as you consume something, it tells you your body if you like it, it responds well or it doesn't. Just like if you take something that's not good for you in the way of processed food, your body says, I don't like that. And I'm going to react in a negative way. So here's some other PubMed studies. And so some of the thing conditions as well that can impact you over time is your kidneys, your liver. And so I mentioned that, the actual Ganoderma protects your organs as you're going through things like chemo or radiation, or you're going through the cancer journey, right? So here's some other things that you can actually check at your own diligence. But for one thing I'm confident about is that it is anti-tumor, anti-cancer. It also anti-hepatitis. It helps you with your fatigue, and also helps with prostate cancer. But I won't go into that today as much, but I will actually have a future discussion on prostate cancer to focus on that as well. So here's another thing as well that I learned over time, is that it improves your liver function. Now, there's something called non-alcoholic fatty liver. And so the spores, which is the capsule I mentioned that goes in 3 stages, helps with reducing your numbers for your fatty liver. And one of the best example I can give you was my older sister. We don't talk about our health as we should in the family. This is something that it just happens that way. And in a visit, I had gifted her some coffee, and the coffee is infused into the Ganoderma is infused into that beverage. So I gifted her for Christmas. She didn't tell me what was wrong with her. She never expressed it. So she called me like about 2 months later, and she's not a big coffee drinker. She was having like half a sachet. And I was just touching base, and she said, oh, that coffee you gave me? I said, yeah. She goes, well, I had fatty liver, and now I went back into the numbers. I think it was 6 weeks, and it's gone. I said, what do you mean? It's gone. I didn't know about this. This is years ago it happened. And so for me, I can attest to that because this is my sister's testimony. And I'm so happy that I'm able to add value that way, in the way of health, unconsciously not knowing that this would help her. So if you look to the right, there's actually a diagram of some of the things that the actual Ganoderma can do for you. One of the things for me is to ensure that I can add value by giving you the right information. And again, if there's more questions, I can answer at the end. Now, one of my passion on my husband, Joseph-McLean, is that we discovered wellness through this company, this brand called Organo. And the power of Ganoderma has impacted our lives in many ways. Through the health and wellness, of course, we create a business through that as entrepreneurs. We do have a business presentation we do every Sunday at 5 p.m. So you're welcome. If you want to know more about that aspect, you can reach out to the person who invited you. But today I'm speaking about health. So if you realize that one small choice in your life can give a lasting impact, whether it's through taking a walk, exercising, having a right mindset, mind shift, eating the right foods, consuming the right type of food. So this is what I want to share with you. So cordyceps, Ganoderma, and lion mane have been my new go-to health regime. And I want to share this with you, so you can take a screen capture of this as well. This is infused in the beverages I'm going to share with you in just a moment. So if not sure that you're aware of this, that there's one way of consuming the Ganoderma, through capsule form, but there's another way through infused products that most of us are habitual. If you're like me, I like coffee, I like tea. I'm a new coffee drinker in the last few years. Tea is my vice, but imagine having goodness every day from one cup of coffee or tea every day, or even through your capsules, and receiving all of those benefits in the way of the amino acids, the minerals, and antioxidants you need in your body. So your habit could be drinking coffee, but then you can consider switching your brand and continue that habit. Because it doesn't matter how, you have a condition and your doctor says, give up coffee and tea because it's not good for you. You're going to still sneak one or two. But what if you were to change your brand at least for 30, 60, 90 days, and then you just pay attention to your body to see what it does. So here are just a few examples of some of the products we have. Like the teas have the cordyceps and the ganoderma. And the cordyceps has a lot more benefits than what I'm sharing with you. Things like your respiratory, also for anxiety, for many different conditions that the cordyceps is known for. And again, that's found through PubMed.gov, not our website, not our company, but through due diligence and checking, those who know in that field what the actual mushrooms can do for one's body. The king, which is one of my favorite, has the spores in it. I mentioned the seeds infused into that. And then you have the black supreme and the different type of blends of coffee, but there's also hot cocoa for kids and kids at heart. So if you're like me, I like baking, but if you may not be like me, but you like to have baked goods, I actually use a hot cocoa to do my red velvet cake, and I have the mocha for my carrot cake. So if you like the recipe on that, I can share with you. So here's also one of the products I fell in love with in the I think about last 10 months, I've been consuming this, and I've noticed a major difference in my thoughts, my mindset, clarity. But because this has 3 blends of the mushroom, it actually supports more than the immune system. So I mentioned to you that the king has the spores, and the others have the ganoderma, and some have the cordyceps and the reishi, but this has 3. So lion's mane has, in my checking on, PubMed, has so many properties that are great, including anti-cancer. And so for me, it helps with fighting your stress level, it aids in your longevity, and also helps with your better mood. And it's called Royale. It also has the cordyceps I mentioned to you. Now, a lot of people go through their journey, depending on the stage you're at, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And they want to be able to consume something that's more therapeutic. There's also the capsule form. You can take more of it because these have like one serving per cup, so to speak. And there's no way to overdose because it's considered a food supplement as well as a medicinal supplement. And so the cordyceps is infused into that as well, and the lion's mane I mentioned before. And so it helps with your gut-brain connection. So everything is connected. We all know that, right? So here's what I want to share, which are the capsule forms, and they come, I mentioned, in 3 stages. One of the things I am most proud of is the way how the formulation, the patent was developed almost 15 years ago or more, I believe, where the capsule, the Ganoderma, the absorption rate is 99%. That stays in your body. Sometimes you should have vitamins and you pee it out, and you can actually tell based on the smell or the color of your urine. But in this case, it actually stays in your body. And then if you compare it to other brands, the saturation or the absorption rate is between 4 and 13%. And again, this is not my numbers, it's just your research. And so as we wrap up here, this part before I introduce to you my dear friend Pat Russell, we do have promotions on for individuals who are interested in just at least venturing into switching their brands, at least for 30, 60, 90 days. There's a wellness promotion happening until March 31st. You can save 15%. You can actually, if you have a friend who would like to share the products with, or for yourself, for your family, you're more than welcome to get back to the person who invited you. But also there's another great opportunity that if you want to try this for 60, 90 days, because the body takes depending on the years of your body with the toxins that you have and different types of stress level over the years, you may not see it within day 1, day 2, and some people do. So give yourself that chance to observe and to pay attention. And as a preferred customer, there's a program where you can get 25% off of your order. Doesn't matter what the order is. It's considered an authorship program, and you control that. You can pause it, you can change it, just as long as you do the day before the actual date is supposed to be processed. And you can benefit from that 25%. Again, reach back to the person who invited you and you can take advantage of that. And this is part of the wellness package. As I wrap this up, this part of my presentation with you. You can take a screen capture of this or go back to the person, revisit the person who spoke to you about this particular invitation. So I'm going to share this with you. My right part of my screen is actually blank. I wanted to put the link there for the program, for this magazine in January, which is a special month for me now, especially with the passing of my mom. She passed in January 2 years ago, and her birthday was on the 21st of January. I was invited to be part of this Women's Journal magazine, along with my husband, on speaking on mindset for a healthier you. So feel free to read the article. I can share it in the chat afterwards. And so it just sort of helps you to have a way to reset your mind if you want to take that next step of shifting yourself internally of how to help yourself to create the right habits for a healthier version of you. So with that, I want to introduce you to Pat Russell, and I'll read as Pat is sharing her story. I will read through the questions that she may have and address them after she is finished. Now, just to to go do the right thing by her, I want to share with you her amazing story, but I won't give too much away. She is Patricia Russell. She is a worship leader. And she's a songwriter and she sings beautifully. I've heard her before. She's a speaker. She writes and she teaches on the power of God's word to heal and empower you to become all that your purpose is, who you're supposed to become in the way of your becoming. She's traveled and ministered internationally, and she shares her gifts and with the audience and encourages people to empower and share life lessons through word and song. Patricia has sung on national television broadcasts, and she shared the stage with several respected speakers. And she's married to her soulmate, her life partner of 37 years, which I have to get some advice from you, Pat. She has 2 adult children, and as a 2-time breast cancer overcomer. And I said survivor, but overcomer is the right word to use. She encourages audience to develop resilience and live life for their fullest. And of course, she has released 2 gospel music recordings, Draw Me Nearer and Lord, I Trust You. And I'm so proud of the fact that I was part of this book that we co-wrote together. She created a compilation of books, and the book is called Stronger Resilience. And so being resilient, it has become a best-selling book. It's just sort of healing the mind and body. And with that, I just want to introduce to you Mrs. Patricia Russell.
Thanks, Kerry-Ann. Hi, everybody. I hope you had a great day. You're inside, you're warm, you're getting ready for the big storm. I'm delighted to be here with you just to share my story. I want you to think about, imagine this. Imagine a woman. She's strong, she's resilient, juggling the demands of family, work, and community. People know her for her warm smile, her nurturing spirit, her commitment to making the world a better place. But inside, she's dealing with a battle that nobody knows because she looks good on the outside. It's deeply rooted in both her health and the complexity of being a Black woman in Canada. This woman, like many in our community, are facing breast cancer. I was that woman. I was 38 when I was first diagnosed. I was very active in my community. I had 2 young children, and it was like somebody had kicked me in the stomach. Kicked me in the stomach because it was the one thing that I said I will never, ever get. I learned very quickly afterwards. Justin Bieber sang a song, Never Say Never. I agree, never say never, because you just don't know what tomorrow will bring. However, I believe that breast cancer allowed me to become more courageous, more confident, and more bolder. Breast cancer doesn't discriminate, but it impacts all of us in unique ways. I'm sure every one of us knows somebody, or maybe yourself, have gone through the journey. According to research, Black women are more likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer at a younger age. They also tend to experience more aggressive forms of the disease, including triple negative breast cancer, which is harder to treat. But despite these stats, there's strength in numbers, and every year, countless women, regardless of your race or your ethnicity, have risen above the adversity. And we're sharing our stories, we're building awareness, and we're fighting for a healthier future for our sisters, for our cousins, for our daughters, for our nieces, and in some cases for our granddaughters. And I am one of them. And so my journey began in late September 20, the fall of 2022. My mom and I wanted to go on a health journey. We wanted to strengthen our bodies. My mom was in her 60s at the time. And like I said, I was in my 30s. Unbeknownst to us, about a month or so after, we'd been buying books, we'd been listening to information. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. About 4 months later, I would be getting dressed to go to work, and my arm rubbed something when I was putting on my shirt, and I found a lump in my breast. I kind of dismissed it because I'm the type of person, okay, we're late or something is spilled, let's just keep it going. But my husband insisted and said, don't let this sit, go and get it checked out. Would you believe that the morning that when I got that appointment and I went into the doctor's office, I told my doctor straight up, can you just send me for a mammogram? And he said, why? I said, because I found something. My mother is going through treatment. I can't tell her. He said I was the third woman to walk into his office that day, including his wife. Now, I believe that because of my mom and because of his wife was why he quickly escalated me to get tested. If you're aware of what's been happening in the news, we have been fighting and advocating to lower the screening age because the screening age was 50 plus. Remember, I said I was 38. The ages of women have been decreasing. And so one of the first things I want to encourage you to do is to advocate for yourself, regardless of the situation. Advocate, open up your mouth and speak. God has given us a voice and we need to use it. It was interesting that I was trying to build my health awareness and my nutrition information before I was diagnosed. I was being proactive about my health. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be proactive about our health. I want to leave a couple of things with you. I'm not going to be too long. According to stats, breast cancer statistically will affect 1 in 8. Yeah, you heard that. 1 in 8, that's not great. 1 in 8 will sit across from their clinician and be handed a diagnosis. But secondly, I want you to remember that the mind is a powerful thing. Control your mind and determine to win. Control your mind and determine to win. If you're one of those people that consistently think negatively, I want you to think about this phrase that I've coined. Your diagnosis is not your prognosis. I determined out the gate that I was going to win because I was running alongside my mom. I couldn't tell my mom until she was almost finished her treatment. But while she was going through her treatment, we just kept pumping and encouraging each other and saying, Mom, you're going to be fine. When she was almost through was when I was able to share the news with her. And I'm glad that I waited because she didn't take it too well. But we just continued to speak life into each other. You have to decide and determine that even though you've been given a name to your illness or a name to your challenge, maybe it could be financially challenged, it could be a health challenge, but putting a name to the diagnosis, it's powerful because you know kind of what you're fighting. You know what you're praying for, but it doesn't determine the prognosis. You can decide that you're going to win from the outset. Thirdly, it's really important that you don't believe the myths. There are a lot of myths out there. breast cancer is not necessarily hereditary. How many of you have had friends or relatives and you've heard this conversation? Well, her mom got it or her aunt got it, so she might get it. If you're from a Caribbean household, you may have heard that conversation. Maybe if you're from a faith background, you might hear that going around, but that's a myth because after genetic testing, it was proven that the diagnosis that I had was not genetic. After my mom had genetic tested, it was proven that she not necessarily had the diagnosis because of hereditary. Listen to your body. Listen to your body. Somebody said in the chat earlier that your body can tell you a lot. Kerry-Ann talked about it. We encourage women within the first 7 days of the month, check your body to see if anything's changed. It's very, very easy to check your breast, check under your arms, check because under your arms, there are lymph nodes. Check your mind. How are you feeling emotionally, mentally? Has anything changed over the last 30 days? But you don't have to wait for the first 7 days of the month. Listen to your body on a daily, because something that was not there last week and showing up today, you can catch it. You can monitor it. You should even I would encourage you to have a medical journal to track how your emotions are, to track how your body is functioning, so that when you do make that appointment, you go in armed with information that you can share with your clinician. We all know what's happening with our medical system here in Canada and maybe abroad. But when you go in with the facts and you go in with your written notes, you are able to advocate more clearly because you can explain this has been happening from this time, from that time. My clinician listened to me, and I was very, very appreciative of that. So, just to review, yes, breast cancer statistically will affect 1 in 8. Control your mind and determine to win from the outset, whatever the diagnosis is. Don't believe the myths. Breast cancer is not necessarily hereditary. And finally, you can affect the outcome, which is what I did, which was part of my toolkit. You can affect the outcome of the diagnosis by what you put in. So nutritionally is very important. I heard Kerry-Ann say that the doctor told her cousin that she could eat anything. But she also advised that you might want to seek out a nutritionist. I have a very good friend who has just popped in, who is a nutritionist, and she decided to educate herself, and she specializes in cancer and menopausal issues. Speak to somebody who has studied the issue and knows it. Yes, you could eat most things, but to keep it simple, what I did was I kept it clean. I ate clean. And if God didn't make it, maybe you may not want to eat it. If it comes from the earth and it comes from the ground, it's good. I know a lot of people will say, well, you shouldn't eat spinach or you shouldn't eat this, but did God create it? Did it come from the ground? It depends on where you're getting it from. You do want to be eating more organic food. And I know the jury is out on whether organic is organic, but let's just keep it simple. If God created it, it's pretty good for you. Water is going to be extremely important. And on my journey, I drank a lot of water. I drank clean water, good water where the pH levels were good, because water is going to help to flush out things in your body that shouldn't be there. So my journey, while it was scary, while it was shocking, has proven to enable me to advocate for others. I'm an ambassador for the Olive Branch of Hope, which has been in existence for over 20 odd years. It was founded by two women who did not find a support group that kind of met their faith needs and their spiritual needs. Well, guess what? People never knew about us before, but you've seen us around, and we are supporting women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer. We also collaborate with a group that helps men with prostate cancer. And I heard Kerry-Ann say she's going to address that on another time. I have relatives and friends who have experienced that, including my own husband. Yep. He went through prostate cancer, but guess what? He's here. He's yet here. My mom also was diagnosed with breast cancer again, but guess what? She is here. She's yet here. She's 91 years old, and she can bake a bun like nobody else. She can bake and a banana bread like nobody else. What I want to leave with you tonight is that your diagnosis does not determine your prognosis.
Mhm.
Determine out the gate in your mind that you're going to fight. Speak life to your body. Speak life to yourself. Shut out the negativity, whether it be coming from media or people, and feed yourself living things, living food, living words. I promise you, the outcome does not have to be destructive. The outcome does not have to be negative. But what you learn along the journey is going to infuse the life of others, which is why I collaborated with about 30 individuals and we wrote this book, Stronger Resilience. It is available on Kindle, on Amazon, and it's stories to empower the mind, body, and spirit. And I pulled from my journey and from all these beautiful individuals that compiled from their journey to encourage and speak life into other people. Remember this. Your diagnosis does not determine your prognosis. You can and you will win. Thank you, Kerry-Ann, for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. And if you could also put in the chat the link for the Olive of Hope there. So those who want, because I think support is very important.
Yes.
So and you put that in there so those who just have to can reach out and they can be part of that so that we can get additional support. And I'm so happy with that book that I was part of the co-author of it. And
Yep.
I'm so proud of that as well. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much.
So
And
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm just going to put in the chat an event that is coming up in March.
That's
If you know
fine.
anybody in the West End, if you know somebody that wants to get a mammogram, they can get that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, I'm going to open up for a few minutes for quick Q&A. If you have any questions, I went through the chat. I didn't see any questions. I'm honest, I missed it. So if you have a question, you can take yourself off mute and ask away. Before you do that, I'm also going to share the link for the article that I spoke about for Women Journal, so you can feel free to read that as well. Sorry, the floor is open if you want to ask a question. And please feel free, this is a safe space. So we want to ensure that you feel encouraged to share. Okay, there we go. So I see the link for the olive branch. Thank you so much for posting that. And if there's no questions, I actually was able to post the link. Thank you so much. There's a question asking if there's a taping of the program. Yes, I will actually we have a special group. We have a Facebook private group for all of our customers, anyone who wants to learn more about health in different areas. So what I could do is I can share the invite through WhatsApp or text, and then they don't necessarily have to be a part of it unless they want to continually learn, and they can actually watch the video from there. So you can forward that to them. And this is the question from Pauline. Okay, so I think we're okay. So I thank you so much for your time. Like I said, you could have been doing something else totally different, but you chose to be here. And Patricia, thank you so much for sharing from your heart and to keep on being an advocate. And I know you are. And we are all overcomers. We are all sitting here or standing here as overcomers in one way, shape, or form.
And Sir Kerry-Ann, good night.
Good
And
night, Pauline.
yes, I recognize Patricia because Pastor Lila Springer is one of those hosts that really keep the olive branch of hope. And sometime when I have a chance to go and visit when she have these program, and it's a beautiful, beautiful program. So, she's doing a wonderful job. She and with Sister Winsome, so I know what she's talking about.
Awesome. So if you want to get, I think Patricia, if you want to share that the name of the person, or we can refer whoever wants to know about the nutritionist. We can certainly share that afterwards or in the chat, whatever way or shape or form we can get that information out. And then, yeah, but thank you, Pauline, for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right, well, have a great night, everyone. Thanks again. And then this recording will be available. I know it was a lot of information. We went a little bit longer than I anticipated, but it's all good for me. If it's all good for you, I'd like to get a thumbs up. And just to know that we're doing a good job. I love feedback. So if there's any questions that you may not have asked or thought about, if you're like me, I think of the questions afterwards. I hang up from a call. Feel free to send a message out. I'll be more than happy to address them as best as we can. Oh, perfect. So Patricia, thank you for sharing that. So in the chat, there's the link for perfecthealthsolutions.ca. That is a nutritionist you referred, right? So
Yes.
that actually is something that you can take with you. Okay.
Thanks everybody.
Again. Have a great night.
Good
Blessings
night.
to every one of you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.